Governor, there's a bill in the House that has, I think, 77 sponsors that ask you to certify that there is, in fact, congressional authorization for sending National Guard into basically a war situation. What are your thoughts on that?
I frankly wasn't aware of that, but the issue has come up from time to time. It's been litigated. Congress has made it quite clear that when the President of the United States orders National Guard troops into federal service, that he has that authority.
Isn't there also a law that requires at least some congressional declaration of military need before Guard troops can be sent into an overseas mission?
Frankly, I don't think a state official ought to issue a certification that's an interpretation of federal law. So perhaps there's someone else they'd like to direct that request to.
I mean, do you have any concerns, not necessarily with the situation right now, but that in the future that a president might ask state Guard troops to go into a war setting that might not be strictly legal?
Well, that's a matter that I'm sure will be litigated at the time if there's any concern about it. But the responsibility of Green Mountain Boys, who have always answered the call to serve when the Commander-in-Chief has asked, is to follow that direction and serve at his command. My concern, frankly, about the National Guard is what might happen domestically. And you may have seen that I've been asked to co-chair a group of governors that are going to be talking with Pentagon officials and other administration officials about the discretion of governors and how important it is that it be maintained during domestic emergencies. And there have been proposals in the Congress over the last few years to give the President the power to mobilize them and assume command outside of gubernatorial authority. And the governors feel strongly that we don't want to see any change. But in terms of federalizing troops for service in combat theaters, that's something that has always been respected.
What's the difference if you don't want to have Guard troops necessarily federalized for domestic purposes, but it's okay to do it for international? What, in your mind, what's the policy difference?
Well, the President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and has the responsibility to make determinations on behalf of our country when military action is required. But domestically, that's a matter that governors have traditionally been responsible for, whether it's a natural disaster of some kind, or a massive power outage, or a disturbance that requires National Guard troops to be activated. That's been within the discretion of governors, and I think should continue to be.
We've got 1,500 Guard troops going headed towards Afghanistan. General Dubey's talking about in some months sending a contingent to Haiti. Do you have some concerns that there are not enough Guard troops left in Vermont for an emergency that might arise here?
Well, I'll make sure that there are, and General Dubey is certainly aware of that. During the last couple of years, the governors have met with the Chief of the National Guard Bureau and some other Pentagon officials. We met with the Secretary of Defense a couple of years ago, the Vice Chairman of the Army Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, to talk about that very issue. 5 or 6 years ago, there were some states around the country that had 3/4 of their National Guard troops deployed at one point, and we made it clear that that's a problem. So now there's a policy of the Pentagon of an equal commitment, not to exceed a half of any state's National Guard at any point, and I think that's a policy that all states are comfortable with. We have far more National Guard troops here, even after the deployment, than have ever been activated for a domestic emergency in Vermont. The General assures me we'll continue to have adequate resources.